Elise's reflection in the mirror wasn't hers anymore. She stared, breathless, at the woman before her, wild-eyed, hair disheveled, a faint bruise forming on her temple. The cold light of the bathroom flickered ominously, casting a spectral sheen over her pale skin. She didn't remember how she got here, or why her hands were trembling so violently. The last thing she recalled was the sound of shattering glass, and then nothing. Her pulse quickened as she reached up to touch the bruise, wincing at the tenderness. There was a metallic taste in her mouth, bitter and sharp, mingling with the acrid scent of antiseptic. The bathroom door behind her was slightly ajar, a shadowy figure just beyond the threshold. "Elise." The voice was soft, almost too gentle, but it sent a jolt of fear through her. She knew that voice, but there was something off, something that made her stomach churn with dread. She turned slowly, every muscle tensed as if expecting an attack. But it was just her husband, Henry, standing in the doorway. He looked concerned, his brow furrowed as he took a cautious step toward her. "What happened?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "How did I?" Henry's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of something she couldn't quite place. Guilt? Anxiety? He reached out, his hand hovering inches from her arm, before letting it drop. "You fainted," he said, but there was a hesitation, a split second where his eyes darted away from hers. "I found you on the floor. I was so worried." The words felt wrong, rehearsed. Elise's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to piece together the fractured memories. The shattered glass, the pain in her head, the sound of someone whispering her name. Was it him? She nodded slowly, though doubt gnawed at her. "I must have hit my head." Henry's smile was tight, forced. "Let's get you to bed. You need to rest." As he led her down the hallway, Elise couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly, inexplicably wrong. The house was too quiet, the air thick with a tension that made it hard to breathe. She glanced around, noticing little things that seemed out of place: a chair slightly askew, a picture frame on the wall that wasn't quite straight. Once they reached the bedroom, Henry helped her into bed, tucking the covers around her with meticulous care. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, his touch lingering a moment too long. "Try to sleep," he murmured. But sleep was the last thing Elise wanted. She needed to understand what had happened, why her memories were so hazy, why the reflection in the mirror felt like a stranger's. As soon as Henry left the room, closing the door quietly behind him, Elise sat up, her mind racing. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, desperate for any clue that might help her make sense of the situation. But the screen was cracked, the display flickering erratically. Another piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. Elise decided to check the bathroom again, her mind replaying the few disjointed images she could recall. As she approached the mirror, her reflection seemed to waver, like a distorted image on a broken screen. She leaned in closer, her breath fogging the glass. Then she saw a faint outline behind the mirror, as if someone was standing on the other side. Her blood ran cold. She reached out, her fingertips grazing the cool surface. It felt solid, but she could sense something or someone watching her. "Elise!" The whisper came again, softer this time, echoing inside her head. She whipped around, but the bathroom was empty. Panic surged through her. What was happening? Was she losing her mind? She staggered back to the bedroom, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and confusion. The walls seemed to close in on her, the shadows deepening as the minutes ticked by. She tried to focus, to push through the fog clouding her mind, but it was like trying to grasp smoke. Just as she was about to crawl back into bed, a knock on the door made her jump. Her heart leapt into her throat as the door creaked open, revealing a woman she didn't recognize. Tall, with sharp features and piercing eyes, the woman stepped into the room with an air of authority. "Elise, we need to talk," the woman said, her voice calm yet firm. "I'm Dr. Harper. Do you remember me?" Elise shook her head, bewildered. "No, I don't." Dr. Harper nodded, as if she had expected this response. She pulled a chair over and sat down beside the bed, her gaze unwavering. "You've been through a lot these past few weeks. The trauma, the therapy sessions. It's understandable that your memory is fragmented." "Trauma?" The word sent a shockwave through Elise. She searched the doctor's face for answers, but found none. "What are you talking about? I don't remember anything." "That's part of the condition," Dr. Harper explained. "We've been working on recovery, but there's a long way to go. You've experienced a dissociative fugue state, where your mind has blocked out certain events to protect itself." Elise stared at her in disbelief. "Blocked out? What events? What happened to me?" Dr. Harper sighed. glancing at the door as if contemplating how much to reveal. You were involved in an incident, a severe psychological break. You hurt yourself. Elise, you've been under observation ever since. Elise felt like the ground was crumbling beneath her. No, that can't be right. I don't remember. Your memories may start to return, piece by piece, Dr. Harper continued, her tone clinical. But you need to be prepared. Sometimes the mind can fabricate details to fill in the gaps, and distinguishing between real and imagined experiences becomes difficult. Elise's head swam with questions, doubts clawing at her every thought. What about Henry? Is he real? Is any of this real? Henry is real, Dr. Harper assured her. But your relationship has been strained by what happened. You need to take this one step at a time. We'll continue our sessions, and together we'll try to sort through the confusion. But Elise wasn't convinced. There was something in Dr. Harper's eyes, something she couldn't trust. Her instincts screamed that this woman was hiding something. As Dr. Harper stood to leave, Elise caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror behind the doctor. The bruise on her temple had darkened, and there was something else, something almost imperceptible, like a shadow within the glass. A fleeting image of another face, not her own, staring back at her. After Dr. Harper left, Elise couldn't stay still. She paced the room, trying to make sense of her thoughts. Could she really trust anything she was being told? Or was this another layer of some twisted game, another manipulation? She approached the mirror again, drawn to the haunting reflection. The shadowy figure was gone, but the unease lingered. As she stared into her own eyes, a terrifying possibility dawned on her. What if the person she thought she wasn't real? What if she was just a creation of someone else's mind, a construct to shield her from the truth? The more she considered it, the more the idea seemed to take root. Memories she couldn't verify, emotions that didn't quite fit. What if Henry, Dr. Harper, what if they were all part of this elaborate illusion? Desperation clawed at her chest. She needed to find out who she really was, or if she was anyone at all. She rifled through the drawers, searching for anything that might offer clarity. At the bottom of one drawer, she found an old journal. It was worn, the pages yellowed with age, but when she opened it, she recognized the handwriting as her own. The entries were chaotic, scrawled in a frantic, almost illegible script. They spoke of nightmares, voices whispering in the dark, of a presence lurking just out of sight. The last entry sent a chill down her spine. They're watching me. I can't trust anyone, not even myself. If I'm reading this, remember, it's all a lie. Everything you know is a lie. Elise dropped the journal as if it had burned her. She stumbled back, her mind reeling. The reflection in the mirror seemed to mock her, a twisted parody of who she thought she was. What was the truth? Who could she believe? As the night deepened, Elise felt the walls closing in, the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. She knew she had to get out, had to escape before whatever was happening consumed her completely. But where would she go? Who could she turn to? Just as she was about to make a run for it, the door creaked open again. This time, it was Henry, his face pale, his eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't place: fear, sadness, maybe both. "Elise," he began, his voice shaking. "You're not well? You need help. Please, just let them help you." But she couldn't listen, couldn't trust. The journal's warning echoed in her mind. It's all a lie. She backed away from him, her heart racing. "Stay away from me." Henry's expression crumpled, but he didn't move. "Elise, please." But she was already running, pushing past him, down the hallway, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The house seemed to twist and warp around her, doors leading to nowhere, corridors looping back on themselves. She felt like a rat in a maze, each turn only leading her further into the unknown. Finally, she burst through a door and found herself outside. The cold night air hit her like a shock, but she didn't stop. She ran across the lawn, her bare feet slipping on the dew-slick grass, until she reached the edge of the property. But there, at the boundary, she stopped dead in her tracks. Beyond the fence, there was nothing, just an endless void, a gaping blackness that swallowed everything in its path. It was as if the world ended here, as if there was no reality beyond this house. Elise staggered back, horror filling her every thought. Was this the truth she had been searching for? That her world was nothing but a construct, a cage she could never escape? As she stood there, on the brink of madness, she heard the whisper again, closer this time, more insistent. "Elise," she turned, and there, in the darkness, was the shadowy figure from the mirror. It stepped forward, out of the void, and for the first time, she saw its face. It was her. Or at least, it looked like her. but the eyes were different, cold, calculating, devoid of any emotion. "You're not real," the figure said, its voice echoing in Elise's mind. "You never were. You're just a fragment, a piece of the whole. And now it's time to come home." Elise wanted to scream, to run, but she couldn't move. The figure reached out, its hand merging with hers, and in that moment, everything made sense. The memories, the voices, the void, it was all part of her, part of the truth she had been denying. As the darkness closed in around her, Elise finally understood. She had never been real. She was just a creation, a manifestation of someone else's mind, a vessel for their pain and fear. And now, as the figure pulled her into the void, she realized there was no escape. There never had been. And then there was nothing.